now we're moving on. This is the beginning of a very special summer for us. It's the summer of George. And if you're a Seinfeld fan, you know what this is. If you're not a Seinfeld fan, it'd probably be weird if you're listening to this show and you're not a Seinfeld fan, because just I think our normal dialogue kind of constitutes that. But we're gonna bring in my girlfriend for many years. Janey's gonna come in. She's gonna talk about one of the great Seinfeld episodes. If you haven't seen it recently, it's the Chicken Roasters. We're gonna bring her in. It's a great episode.
We don't really have like a format for this, but we said we're going to do the Summer of George. We're going to invite someone on every week to talk about one of their favorite episodes. Doesn't necessarily mean it's the episode that they think is the best. Because in my case, it's not. It's just one of my favorite episodes, not necessarily the one that I think is the best. So I will say, amazing choice for the Chicken Roaster. I just watched it before we started. And I was 5 minutes in and I was laughing, afraid that I was going to wake people up in the house. So we're going to start things off hot with the Chicken Roaster. So again, this is no pun intended, or maybe highly intended. This is the first time I'm meeting JD. So hi.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
So you may need to bring the microphone a little closer, Greg.
Okay.
Put it in the middle.
There we go.
So, the Chicken Roaster. Give us a synopsis, basically, and why you picked this episode.
I chose the Chicken Roaster episode. It's, I think it's my favorite episode of Seinfeld. I don't know if it's the best episode, but it's certainly my favorite. I think it's the funniest. So what happens is a Kenny Rogers Roasters opens up next to Jerry's and Kramer's apartment, and it has unintended consequences for both Jerry and Kramer. And George strikes out with a fur hat, and it leaves unintended consequences for both George and Elaine. And the Kenny Rogers Roasters phenomenon, opening up a chain of chicken restaurants in the mid-90s, that spoke to me on a personal level, because there was a Kenny Rogers Roasters that opened up in my hometown. And the one time that we ate there as a family, I remember being overwhelmed by the choices. I really wanted mac and cheese, but my parents were like, no, you have to get chicken. And I was not happy with that, and we haven't eaten there since. And the chain of restaurants is now completely relegated to the Philippines. There are no more chains in the United States. And R.I.P. Kenny Rogers.
Why do I feel like I've seen one recently? Like there was, maybe it was closed, but in Columbus.
Oh,
I really feel like I did. I was
could have been a Boston
Googling.
Market.
No, it was definitely not
Same color scheme.
a Boston Market. I can tell the difference.
Oh, but there was a Boston Market in my hometown too, and
There you go.
hasn't long since gone, but also that same time period. So, but yeah, so the Kenny Rogers Roasters episode. What I like about it is, I feel like this kind of has like best of moments for minor characters involved. So any episode with Newman is just inherently more funny. I think White Knight is just the right guy at the right moment in the mid-90s. And you get one of his best lines in the entire series when Jerry force feeds him the broccoli.
The broccoli.
And goes, vile weed!
Yes. Great
It's
line.
brilliant.
And I think that this is also because, like, a lot of times there are iconic Seinfeld things that pop up in certain episodes and you don't necessarily tether them to that episode because they're not maybe the main thing of that episode. And for this one, it would be the Costanza
Right.
line where
Yes.
he says, he does the, what's he call it? The leave behind. The leave behind. And he's like a commercial and he just gets in there. And then by the end, you're singing it. Costanza.
I think too, and like this. So Janey had never watched Seinfeld the whole way through. Maybe like an episode here and there, and then we just said we're just gonna sit down. We're gonna go through this, and we're like in season 9 now, and the thing that I would say all the time, and she would have no idea what I was referencing, is like, those are load-bearing walls, Janey. They're not coming down. And it's like, the way Kramer takes that so seriously. It's just like,
Right.
anytime Jerry says something about like, oh, the shed downstairs, like anytime he says something about like something he has, or like, why don't we just blow apart these, break down these walls? It's just like the way that Kramer takes Jerry so seriously.
So literally, yes.
So literally,
yes.
it's just one of my favorite things, and it comes out in this episode so perfect.
I think the other thing that I found to be very funny about this episode when I was just watching it back was as they switched apartments, because Jerry switches to Kramer's apartment to cope with the
red light.
the blinding red light, was how their personalities subtly switched.
Completely.
Yes,
And they didn't
yes.
like it was very obvious that that's what they were going for, but they never addressed it really. Like within the show, like they make kind of a subtle reference to it when George is talking to Kramer at the coffee shop, but he's like adopted Jerry's mannerisms and just the cadence of the way he speaks and things like that. The eighth, really from like season 7 on through the end, maybe even starting, they're just so insane. Like every episode is just completely off the rails. And I think that this is like I said, we started it off hot, no pun intended, or pun highly intended. And this is, it traps the heat, the sable hat. Traps the heat on your head. I don't even have to wear a coat.
I'm surprised you didn't get the large size.
Yeah, great choice. We appreciate you joining us for the Summer of George to kick things off in the Summer of George. And again, nice meeting you.
It's nice to meet you too.
Jay, do you have any other just final thoughts on this episode? Because I think it is one of those underrated great episodes after I watch it now, like for the probably 190th time.
Well, I think something else that makes it really great is how tightly it's written, how you get sort of callbacks to, certain lines throughout the episode. How, like, oh, you seem stressed. Oh, I'm stressed. Switching back and forth between Jerry and Kramer. And, oh, that's not good for business. That's not good for anyone.
That's not good for anyone. Yeah.
Plus, you get Jay Peterman.
Yeah, Peterman, are you an assassin? I love that actor. I love him. I think he's one of the...
Hurley.
Yeah, I think that he's one of the best ancillary characters throughout the entire run of the series, and I'm sure that he'll pop up again in our Summer of George for sure.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
But at any rate.
Well, thanks, buddy.
So,
Of course, my pleasure.
What a great episode.
the Summer of George, we're looking forward to inviting more friends of the program. Friends of the program.
Friends of the
If
program.
you are a friend of the program and would like to come on to discuss the Summer of George, Instagram at BXG Podcast, at GTFills, at Y2B, Facebook.com/BXG Podcast, BXGpodcast@gmail.com. Please get in touch with us. Let us know. We have spots remaining for people to come on to do Summer of George, to talk about some favorite episodes, to just kind of relive the greatness that is Seinfeld.